Welcome to the class. In today's class, we are going to see about control statement. What is control statement? Let's have an example of a man who is so hungry and it's a lunchtime and he's having a two option. When it is a lunchtime, he can simply go and grab his lunch, right? He can eat his lunch. But when it is not, he can't eat lunch because it's not a lunchtime. So he have to do the program. He have to continue working. So in a normal lifestyle, when a person need to choose two option, he is having either he have to eat lunch when it's lunchtime and he have to do his usual work when it's not a lunchtime absolutely. So here it is based on that lunchtime. So here when the lunch time is true, then he can have his lunch. Or else, when it is not, then he can't go for a lunch. He have to continue his work. So here, that person have to take a proper decision. So this is what today's concept we are going to deal with the decision making. And in a C programming, we are having different types of decision making concept such as we are having if statement, if and else, nested if statement like that. Now let's see what is decision making. So here the decision making statement in C decides the direction of the flow of program execution. Like the previous example, when the condition is true, when the lunch time is true, then he can take his lunch. When it is not, he can't take. He have to do the program. So on a certain condition, he is deciding what he have to do. And here we are having four types of decision making statements. One is simple if statement, if and else, nested if statement, if else if statement, which is ladder if and else. And let's see one by one in this class. Okay, first let's see what is simple if statement. If statement is the most simple decision making statement. Here we are going to deal with only the if statement. In the previous example, when that person had to decide either he had to take a lunch or not, he had two options, right? Either he can take a lunch or not. But in a simple if statement, he will be having only one option. If that option is true, he can proceed with whatever he want to do. For example, if this is lunchtime, then he can go for a lunch. That is the only option he's left with. So otherwise he don't have any other options. So like that. So here it is used to decide whether a certain or block of statement will be executed or not. If a certain condition is true, then a block of statement is executed, otherwise not. Let's see an example. Before that, let's see in syntax. So here the syntax of simple if statement is, we will be having a condition within a set of parentheses here, and within this block of codes, we are going to write the statements which are when this condition is true, what we have to do. So those statements will be represented here. Within this block of code, we can write whatever we want. When the condition is true, if the condition is true, then we have to do a plenty of lines of program. We have to execute them means then we can write all those lines here. This is the syntax. Now let's see one example. Okay, fine. So when the holidays are true, then we can celebrate, right? Yeah, so when the holidays are true, then we can celebrate. We are having only one option here. And if this condition is true, then we can execute the celebration. Or else we are not going to do anything because we don't have any other option, only one condition. If that condition is true, this block will be executed or else nothing will be executed. And here is the flow chart. When we write a program, we are giving a if condition, and when we are giving the condition, if that is true, then that will move to the body of that if statement. Or else, when it is false, it simply go to the below of that if statement. For example, if we are giving the condition as 10 is less than 5, we have to check whether this is true or not. We know that this is false. So when this is false, this can't enter inside the if block. It directly goes to this area, which is after this if block. But let us imagine that the given condition is true, where the 10 is greater than 5. Yes, the condition is true. When the condition is true, it can directly go inside the if block. That's all. Let's see one example program. Here we are having a program for if statement, and we are having the header files and void main, and for declaring the mark we are having one mark variable which is of integer data type, and we are stating one printf to enter your mark. When the user enters the mark, we are scanning that value and storing it in the address of mark. And here we are checking the condition. When the mark is greater than or equal to 50, then we are printing that percentage %d is pass mark, and in this place we are showing the mark value, which is if the user gives the value of 70 means, then the 70 will be printed like 70 is pass mark. This will be the output which we will get. That's all. Now let us assume the input as 30. When the input is 30, when it comes to this if statement, we will check that 30 is greater than or equal to 50. And definitely it's not, because 30 is not greater than 50. So it can't go inside the if block. It directly comes after this bracket, then it reaches the get and the program will end. That's all. Now let's see what is if and else statement. In the if statement, we seen only the true statement. When the condition is true, we seen like when the condition is true, that block will be executed. When the condition is false, that block won't be executed, nothing will be executed. It simply go after that if block. And here, if the condition is true, then the true part is executed, which is the if block. Otherwise, we will be having the else block, which is our false part, that will be executed. Like we seen in that programmer example, if he is hungry, if it is lunch time, then he can go for a lunch. Else, when it's not a lunch time, then he can't go for a lunch. That is what else part, right? So like that, when if a certain condition is true, then if block of statement is executed, otherwise else block is executed. That's all. Now let's see the syntax of that if and else. Here the example for if and else. If lunchtime, then he can eat the lunch, else he can do the program. So if the condition is true, then those statements which are need to be executed only if the condition is true. Else, if suppose if the condition is false, means what we have to do? It simply goes into the else block and it will execute whatever inside the else block. Okay, let's see one example. If the holidays are true, then the celebration is true. We can say the celebration is true. But if it is not, then celebration will be false. That's it. Okay, so in this flowchart, here we are having the if condition. If the condition is true, we are simply go with the if body. If it is not, it is directing to the else body. And in the end, it is going to the statement just below if block. And in the end, it is exit. So here we are having the example program. Okay, so here the same program which we are getting the mark from the user, and we are checking that if the mark is greater than or equal to 50, we are printing that that mark is pass mark. But if it is 30, then It is directly going to the else part because the condition becomes false. 30 is not greater than 50. So it is simply printing that percentage D is low mark, which is it will be printing 30 is low mark. That's all. Now let's see what is nested if statement. In the previous two statements, we seen how to use the true statement and false part, right? But here, if suppose if we are having more than one condition need to be checked after another condition means what we need to do. It's an issue, right? So we are going with the nested if statement where we can use if and else statement within another if and else statement. For example, if we are having one condition need to be checked, like if some value, let it be 50, is greater than 10, this is one condition. Then if this condition is true, then it directly comes inside this if block. And after this, we are checking another condition that if 50 is less than 100. If it is means we can say that we are simply putting one printf statement that 50 is between 10 and 100. So here just a simple example. First we are checking whether 50 is greater than 10. Then again we are checking if 50 is less than 100. Even we can write them in a two different if statement. But when we write them, we will get two different output. But here, if this condition is true, then only it can check this one. Or else it can't check. If suppose if the input is, let it be instead of 50, if we are having 5 means, then we can't say that 5 is greater than 10, right? So which means it can't go inside this part. So this won't be printed. So only if this condition is true, we can check this condition. So like this kind of scenario, we can go with the nested if statement. So using of one if statement within another if statement is known as nested of if else statement. Even we can use else part of this if here. Now let's see the syntax of nested if. So when we are having the if condition, within the if condition itself, we can write in another if condition. Even within an else part, we can put in another if part. Okay, let's go with an example. Okay, the same example with a different logic here. So when the holidays are true, we know that when the holidays are false, the celebration is defaultly false. But when the holidays are true, we will be having another condition that again we are double checking that whether the holidays are really true. If it is true, we are going with the celebration part, or else it won't be. It simply goes with this else part. Even instead of this, here we can go when it is holidays, we can say, okay, fine, there are holidays, and we are checking that whether number of holidays are greater than 7. If it is means we can celebrate or else we can't celebrate. So here we can even add the else part which we can put celebration is false. It's depending on the condition we are having. So here is a flowchart for the nested if statement. So when the if condition is true, it directly goes with the if body, and after executing the if body, it is going to the line after the if block. But when the condition is false, it is going with the else part, and inside the else part itself, we are having another nested if condition. So inside that we are checking again whether the condition is true. If it is true, it is going with the nested if body. If it is false, it is going with the nested else body. And in the end, it is going to the end of the block and exit. So here we are having an example program. So same, you are getting the mark, and here Like the previous example, the same thing, we are checking that whether the mark is greater than or equal to 50, and here if it is greater than or equal to 50, we will be simply printing that the mark is pass mark. If it is not, we are simply saying that it is low mark. Inside this itself, we are again checking one condition that when it is low mark, we are checking whether it is less than 10, which is too low mark. So if suppose if it is less than 10 means we are simply printing that need to improve. That's it. So here we are checking one normal if statement, if and else, and inside the else part we are having another if statement. So this is what the nested if statement. So, in today's class, we seen about decision-making statements, which are if statement, which is simple if statement, and if and else statement, nested if statement. These are the three statements we seen in today's class, and these are all about the condition. When the condition is true, it will execute whatever inside that block. And one more thing to be noted is we can't write the else part without if part. If you write the else part directly, that will be ending with error, because whenever you are stating some statement like if it rains, I can get an umbrella. Without saying that if it rains, you can't say I can get umbrella, right? So only if it rains, we can go with umbrella. But without the condition, if you go with else, that's an error. Thank you.